Colton, Zach, Chris, Mr. Rents, Mr. Dugan, Mr. Calloway, and President Carl are lounging comfortably on the couches in the man cave. President Carl: so, how is everyone adjusting to the superhero lifestyle? Colton: it's been interesting. I'm not used to keeping secrets from my friends and family. Balancing a secret identity while fighting crime is definitely a new challenge for me. And let's be honest, masks aren't exactly comfortable. Zach: I think it's awesome. I'm a decent liar, so I'm managing just fine, though I do miss my video game time. Chris: I miss lounging in my grass. But honestly, that's about the only downside for me. Mr. Dugan: this has been quite the adjustment for me. As some of you know, I have a complicated past. I was once a serial killer and had aspirations of world domination, but I was stopped by Colton, Zach, Chris, and Mr. Rents. Quite the twist, huh? Mr. Rents, just to clarify, that was before we even had powers. We were already good at fighting crime back then. Mr. Calloway: well, I've always been a hero at heart. I'm just here to mentor the new heroes. President Carl: true, Mr. Calloway. You've always been a fantastic hero, and you're one of the few originals left. Besides my son and me, you're the only mortal in the Hero League. Most heroes eventually retire. Chris: why aren't the others immortal? President Carl: we don't allow it unless it's their actual superpower. In my case, I gained immortality back in the 1600s, and it was passed genetically to my son. It runs in our family. We're also indestructible. Suddenly, a loud beeping interrupts their conversation, coming from the control panel. President Carl: I'll check that out. Mr. Dugan: what's that noise? I know the emergency alert is a siren, but this is something different. President Carl: that's the Hero League hotline alarm. It means we're receiving a call, usually for emergencies or requests for protection. Our satellite monitors crime, so most alerts are automated, but these calls are more manual. Mr. Dugan: got it. President Carl presses a button on the control panel, transferring the call to the speakers in the man cave. President Carl: thank you for calling the Hero League hotline. This is President Carl speaking. Voice on speaker: hello, Mr. President. This is an agent with the United States Secret Service. We need the assistance of the Hero League. A senator, Mr. Foley, is facing multiple assassination attempts during his re-election campaign. The Secret Service feels it's under-resourced to protect him adequately, and we're hoping the Hero League can send someone to assist. President Carl: how many heroes would you need? Agent: 2 superheroes should suffice. We have plenty of Secret Service agents. We just need a bit of extra help. President Carl: please hold for a moment. Turning to the group, President Carl asks, President Carl, would anyone like to volunteer to guard a congressman? I know it sounds daunting, especially given the general sentiment towards the government, but this could be a great training opportunity for you all. Colton: I'll do it. President Carl: excellent. I'll send Mr. Calloway with you for supervision and backup. Mr. Calloway: sounds great. It'll be some good bonding time. The last time I spent time with Colton was when I was his newspaper club teacher back in middle school. Now that he's in high school, I don't see him as much. Colton: this should be fun. The group prepares for their mission, ready to embrace their heroic roles once again. President Carl turned back to the control panel, adjusting the microphone. Thank you for holding, he said. I'm pleased to inform you that we have a superhero ready to take on the mission. His name is the blank, but you may know him as Colton. He possesses electricity-based powers, which should serve him well in protecting Senator Foley. The voice on the other end responded, relief evident in his tone. That's great to hear, Mr. President. We appreciate your quick response. When can we expect him? President Carl glanced at Colton, who was standing with a mix of excitement and nerves. Colton and Mr. Calloway will head out shortly. We'll coordinate with your team to ensure a smooth handoff. Thank you, Mr. President. We'll be ready on our end, the agent replied before ending the call. Turning to Colton and Mr. Calloway, President Carl began to prepare them for their mission. All right, you two. Here's the plan. Colton, you'll be stationed close to Senator Foley at all times. Your electricity powers will be crucial in both defense and distraction if an attack occurs. Remember, the element of surprise is in your favor. Colton nodded, a determined look on his face. Got it. I'll be ready for anything. Mr. Calloway, President Carl continued, your role will be to support Colton and keep an eye on the surroundings. Use your experience to guide him. He might need your wisdom when things get tense. Absolutely, President. I'll make sure Colton stays focused and safe, Mr. Calloway said confidently. President Carl handed Colton a small device. This is a communication device. Stay in contact with me and the Secret Service at all times. If anything seems off, I want to know immediately. Colton took the device and tucked it into his utility belt. Understood. I won't let you down. Good. Remember, you're not just protecting a politician, you're defending democracy, President Carl said, his voice firm. Now, let's get you suited up and ready to go. Time is of the essence. With that, Colton and Mr. Calloway made their way to the gear room, adrenaline pumping as they prepared for their first real mission together. Colton's heart raced with anticipation, knowing that he was about to step into a world where every decision could mean the difference between safety and chaos. The following day, Colton and Mr. Calloway met Mr. Rentz in the parking lot of Hero League headquarters. All right, get in the van, Mr. Rentz instructed. I'm driving you two to New Orleans, where you'll be protecting the senator. After that, I'll head back to headquarters to keep an eye on things with President Carl. Got it, Colton replied, following Mr. Calloway into the familiar blue van. Can you not drive at supersonic speeds this time? Colton requested. Why not? Mr. Rentz shot back, a grin on his face. That's how I always drive. I'll get you there in seconds. Are you nervous? Mr. Calloway interjected, settling into his seat. A little, Colton admitted. Government employees can be a bit nerve-wracking. I'm in no hurry to get to New Orleans. Don't worry, Mr. Calloway reassured him, placing a hand on Colton's shoulder as Mr. Rentz started the van. I've done this before. Back in 1984, I went on the campaign trail with Ronald Reagan to protect him after the assassination attempt. Government employees can seem intimidating on camera, but behind closed doors, they're actually pretty friendly. They're human, just like you and me. Really? Colton asked, surprised. Of course, Mr. Calloway affirmed. I would never lie to you, buddy. Well then, I guess I'm ready, Colton said with renewed determination. Mr. Rentz, I am ready for this. With that, Mr. Rentz shifted the van into overdrive, and within mere moments, they had arrived in downtown New Orleans to meet the senator. Colton and Mr. Calloway stepped out of the van, taking a moment to absorb the bustling atmosphere of downtown New Orleans. The streets were alive with activity, people mingling, music playing, and the scent of local cuisine wafting through the air. All right, Mr. Calloway said, scanning the surroundings. We need to find Senator Foley. He should be at the campaign headquarters just a few blocks down. Colton nodded, his pulse quickening with anticipation. Lead the way. As they made their way through the crowd, Colton felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The enormity of the task ahead weighed on him. What if I mess up? He asked, glancing sideways at Mr. Calloway. Just remember your training, Mr. Calloway replied reassuringly. Stay alert, trust your instincts, and don't hesitate to use your powers if you need to. You've got this. They turned a corner and spotted the campaign headquarters, a modest building adorned with campaign signs and banners. A small crowd had gathered outside, some supporters waving signs, while others were engaged in conversation. There he is, Mr. Calloway said, pointing toward a group of people near the entrance. Senator Foley stood at the center, shaking hands and chatting amiably with constituents. Colton felt a surge of determination as he watched the senator interact with the public. He looks like he's handling the pressure well, he remarked. He's a seasoned politician, Mr. Calloway said. But that doesn't mean he's not at risk. Let's keep our distance for now and observe. They positioned themselves a short distance away, keeping a watchful eye on the senator and his entourage. Colton focused on the crowd, scanning for any unusual behavior. His heart raced as he reminded himself of the gravity of the situation. Suddenly, a commotion broke out near the entrance. A man in a dark hoodie pushed through the crowd, shouting something inaudible. Colton's instincts kicked in, and he felt a crackle of electricity coursing through his fingertips. Mr. Calloway, something's off, Colton whispered urgently. Mr. Calloway nodded, already shifting into a more defensive stance. Stay close and be ready. Let's see what happens. As the man approached the senator, Security personnel began to move in, but Colton could sense that they might not reach him in time. He took a deep breath, focusing on the energy building within him. This was the moment he had been training for.
Colton took a calculated step forward, his instincts urging him to act. He could see the tension in the crowd as the hooded man continued to shout, drawing closer to Senator Foley. But before he unleashed his powers, he reminded himself to assess the situation.
"Stay back, Colton," Mr. Calloway cautioned, keeping his voice low but firm. "We don't know what he's capable of yet."
Colton nodded, inhaling deeply to steady his nerves. He approached the man slowly, hands at his sides, projecting an air of confidence. "Hey, what's going on?" he called out, trying to get the man's attention.
The hooded figure turned, eyes narrowing as he focused on Colton. "This isn't your business," he shouted, his voice laced with agitation. "I'm here to make a point."
Colton held his ground. "If you want to make a point, there are better ways to do it than threatening a public official. Let's talk this out, all right?"
The man hesitated, the intensity of the moment hanging in the air. Colton could feel the energy swirling within him, ready to be unleashed. But he knew he had to gauge the situation first. The last thing he wanted was to escalate things further if he didn't have to.
"Get away from me!" the man yelled, glancing around at the gathering crowd, his agitation growing.
Colton took another step closer, lowering his voice to a calm but firm tone. "I'm not here to hurt you. I want to help. But if you don't back down, I won't have a choice."
The crowd murmured, tension thickening as people sensed the standoff.
Mr. Calloway edged closer, ready to intervene if necessary.
"What do you want?" Colton pressed, trying to connect with the man. "If you're upset about something, we can find a way to resolve it without threats."
The hooded man's expression faltered for a brief moment, uncertainty flickering in his eyes.
Colton seized the opportunity. "I know that feeling frustrated can lead to desperate actions, but hurting someone isn't the answer."
As the man hesitated, Colton felt the electricity crackling beneath his skin, ready to be harnessed. He could sense the man's resolve wavering. This was his chance to defuse the situation without resorting to force.
"Just put down whatever you have and we can talk," Colton said, hoping to reach the man's better instincts. "You don't have to do this."
The atmosphere was electric, in more ways than one, and all eyes were on the confrontation. Colton could only hope that his words would reach the man before things escalated further.
The hooded man's expression hardened, and without warning he pulled a rifle from beneath his jacket, raising it with a shaky but determined hand.
The crowd gasped collectively and Colton's heart raced.
"Everyone back!" Colton shouted, quickly positioning himself between the man and Senator Foley. "You don't want to do this," he warned, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm the Blink, a superhero, and I'm not afraid to use force if necessary."
The man's eyes widened, but he didn't lower the rifle.
"I don't care who you are, this is my chance to be heard."
Colton's instinct screamed at him that the situation was rapidly spiraling out of control.
"Please, put the weapon down. You're only going to make things worse for yourself."
But the man was resolute, his grip on the rifle tightening. Colton knew he had to act fast. Time was running out, and he couldn't let the senator or anyone else get hurt. Summoning all of his focus, Colton felt the electricity surging through him, crackling in the air. He aimed carefully, willing the energy to concentrate at his fingertips.
"I'm giving you one last chance," he shouted. "Stand down or I will stop you."
In that moment, the man's defiance only grew.
"You think you can scare me? You're just a kid in a costume."
With no other option left, Colton unleashed his powers. A brilliant bolt of lightning shot from his fingertips, striking the man's rifle and surging through to his neck. The impact was instantaneous. The rifle clattered to the ground, and the man staggered backward, his body convulsing momentarily before collapsing to the pavement, unconscious. The crowd erupted into chaos, people shouting and backing away from the scene. Colton quickly rushed to the man's side, checking for any signs of injury. He was alive, but the shock had rendered him incapacitated.
"Colton!" Mr. Calloway called out, rushing over to his side. "Are you all right?"
"I'm fine," Colton replied, still catching his breath. "But we need to secure him and make sure the senator is safe."
As the Secret Service agents moved in to apprehend the unconscious man, Colton felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had acted decisively, but the weight of what had just happened settled heavily on his shoulders.
Let's get the senator out of here, Mr. Calloway urged, looking back toward the entrance of the campaign headquarters where Senator Foley was still surrounded by his staff, visibly shaken but unharmed.
Colton nodded, steeling himself for the next steps. He had faced his first real threat as a superhero, and while his powers had saved the day, he knew that the line between protection and danger was thinner than he had ever imagined. They needed to get Senator Foley to safety and debrief the situation. There would be more to navigate in the days ahead.
Colton approached the group of Secret Service agents who were now securing the area around the hooded man. They moved with practiced efficiency, quickly assessing the situation and ensuring that the crowd was being directed away from the scene. "Agent, I'm Colton, also known as the Blink," he introduced himself, trying to maintain a professional demeanor despite the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. "I just neutralized the threat, but we need to get Senator Foley to safety immediately."
One of the agents, a tall woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense attitude, nodded. "We appreciate your quick response. We were trying to contain the situation, but it escalated too fast. What's your plan?"
"Mr. Calloway and I will take the senator through the back exit of the headquarters," Colton explained. "We can use my speed to get him out of the area quickly and away from any potential threats. Meanwhile, you can handle the situation with the hooded man."
The agent glanced at her colleagues, then back at Colton. "That sounds like a solid plan. We'll need a secure vehicle ready to go. Can you handle the senator's security while we deal with the individual you incapacitated?"
"Absolutely," Colton replied, feeling a surge of confidence. "Let's move."
As the agents coordinated their efforts, Mr. Calloway approached, the hooded man now restrained and being escorted away by two agents. "I'll take him to headquarters for questioning," Mr. Calloway said, a serious look on his face. "I'll make sure he's reprimanded appropriately."
"Thank you," Colton replied, appreciating Mr. Calloway's calm professionalism amidst the chaos. "We'll handle the senator. Please be careful."
With that, Colton and the Secret Service agents made their way into the building, where Senator Foley was still surrounded by her staff, visibly shaken but trying to maintain composure.
"Senator," Colton said, stepping forward, "we need to get you out of here. We're going to take you to a secure location."
The senator nodded, her face pale but determined. "I appreciate your help, Colton. What's the plan?"
"We'll move through the back exit," Colton explained. "I can get us there quickly. Just stay close and follow my lead."
As the group made their way through the building, Colton could feel the tension in the air. The urgency of the situation weighed heavily on him, but he reminded himself of his training. He was prepared for this moment.
They reached the back exit and Colton positioned himself at the door. "On my mark, we'll move. Everyone ready?"
The agents nodded and Senator Foley steeled herself.
"Let's do it."
3, 2, 1, let's go, Colton said. And with that, he harnessed his powers, feeling the familiar rush of energy as he propelled himself, the senator, and the agents out of the building in a flash.
In an instant, they were on the street and Colton looked around, assessing the situation. The street was still bustling, but the chaos from earlier had begun to settle.
"This way," he urged, leading them toward a waiting secure vehicle parked just a few blocks away.
As they ran, Colton couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. He had faced a real threat today, and while he had acted decisively, the world of politics was fraught with dangers that he had yet to fully understand. But for now, his priority was clear: keep the senator safe and ensure that they could uncover the truth behind the attack.
Mr. Calloway stepped into the conference room, the heavy door closing behind him with a decisive thud. The room was stark and clinical, furnished with a long table and a few uncomfortable chairs. The hooded man sat tied to one of the chairs, his head bowed, the remnants of the shock still evident on his face. "Wake up,"
Mr. Calloway said, his voice firm but measured. He leaned against the table, keenly observing the man.
"We need to talk."
The hooded man slowly raised his head, revealing a face etched with defiance and fear.
You think you can intimidate me? I won't say a word.
Calloway crossed his arms, not fazed.
"You might want to reconsider. You just attempted to assassinate a sitting senator. That's a serious charge, and I assure you, you're not going to walk away from this."
The man scoffed, a mix of anger and bravado flickering in his eyes.
He deserves it. They all do. They don't care about us. It's all about power and money for them.
"Why specifically the senator? What did he do to you?"
Calloway pressed, leaning closer. The hooded man looked away, his jaw tightening.
You wouldn't understand. You're part of the system. You're just another cog in the machine.
Calloway straightened, maintaining his focus.
"Try me. I want to understand why you thought that violence was the answer. What's your motive?"
I wanted to make a statement, to show that we won't be silenced anymore. The people are suffering while politicians line their pockets.
"And you think killing a politician would help? You think that will bring change?"
The man hesitated, the fire in his eyes dimming slightly.
I don't know, but it was a start. People need to see that we're willing to fight back.
Calloway sensed a flicker of vulnerability beneath the man's bravado.
What if I told you there are better ways to fight back? Ways that don't involve violence or threats. We can help you make your voice heard.
Help? You're just trying to protect your own. You don't care about people like me.
I care enough to try to understand, but I need you to open up. What do you want? What are you fighting for?
The hooded man fell silent, the weight of his actions pressing down on him. Calloway could see the conflict brewing within him.
I just want people to listen, to see that we're in pain.
Then let's find a way to channel that pain into something productive. You don't have to resort to violence to make your voice heard. There are organizations, movements, people who are fighting for change without bloodshed. Help us understand you, and we might be able to help you.
The man's gaze flickered between defiance and uncertainty. After a long pause, he finally muttered,
I don't know if I can trust you.
You don't have to trust me right now, but I can promise you this. If you cooperate, you might find that there are people out there willing to fight for you without resorting to violence. You just need to take the first step.
The room fell silent as the hooded man wrestled with his thoughts, the tension palpable. Calloway knew that the path to understanding and resolution would be a long one, but it was a path worth taking. He had to believe that even the most desperate individuals could find their way back from the brink if given the right opportunity. The silence in the conference room hung heavily, and Calloway could see the hooded man's defenses slowly crumbling.
Look, I understand that you're angry. You feel betrayed by a system that doesn't seem to care, but violence doesn't solve anything. It only breeds more pain.
The man shifted in his chair, his gaze dropping to the floor.
You don't know what it's like to struggle, to watch your family suffer while those in power live in luxury.
True, I haven't lived your life, but that's why I want to hear your story. What led you to this desperate act? Was it just the senator, or is there more to it?
The hooded man swallowed hard, and Calloway could see the internal battle raging within him.
It's everything. Jobs lost, homes taken, families torn apart. The senator stands for everything wrong in this country. He's part of the problem.
Then tell me how you think assassinating him would change anything. Would it bring back those jobs, heal those families, or would it just create more chaos?
The man clenched his fists, frustration bubbling to the surface.
Maybe it would make people wake up. Maybe someone would finally pay attention.
And what happens after that? More violence? More bloodshed? Or do you want to inspire real change?
The man met Calloway's gaze, the fire of his anger flickering.
I just wanted them to see how serious this is.
Then let's make them see it together. You have a voice, and it can be powerful without resorting to violence. We can connect you with groups that are advocating for change. People who want to listen and help.
Why should I believe you?
Because I'm not here to judge you. I want to understand your pain and help you find a way to express it that doesn't involve hurting others. You've already made one choice today. Let's make a better one together.
The hooded man hesitated, the walls he had built around himself starting to crack.
What if I do talk? What if I tell you everything?
Then we'll take that information and work toward a solution. You can still make a difference, but this time in a way that uplifts instead of destroys.
For a long moment the room was silent, save for the distant sounds of the bustling world outside. The man's expression softened, the fight within him slowly ebbing away.
I just wanted to be heard.
Calloway nodded, seeing the glimmer of hope in the man's eyes.
Then let's start there. Tell me your story.
As the hooded man began to speak, recounting the struggles that had driven him to desperation, Calloway listened intently, knowing that this was the first step toward healing. Not just for the man before him, but for the larger community that had been ignored for far too long. In that moment, the conference room transformed from a place of confrontation to one of understanding, a space where healing could begin and real change could take root.
Colton led Senator Foley and the Secret Service agents down a narrow alley, the sounds of the city muffled by the towering buildings surrounding them. He could feel the weight of the senator's fear and uncertainty, but he also sensed a flicker of gratitude.
Thank you, Colton. I didn't expect things to escalate like that.
Colton had seen the senator in action before, passionate, committed, and always advocating for those who needed a voice. It was that same dedication that had made him a target today. As they approached a sleek black SUV parked discreetly at the end of the alley, Colton glanced over his shoulder to ensure they weren't being followed. The agents moved with him, their eyes scanning the surroundings for any potential threats.
Get in quickly, Senator.
One of the agents urged, opening the door for him. Colton followed closely behind, settling into the seat next to the senator while the agents took their positions in the front.
Where to?
One of the agents asked, his tone professional. Colton, take us to the secure location, somewhere the senator can debrief and regroup. The vehicle accelerated away from the scene, the hustle and bustle of the city fading into the background. Colton turned to the senator, who looked pale but focused. Colton, are you all right?
I'm shaken, but I appreciate your help, Colton. I didn't expect things to escalate like that.
Colton nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Colton, you have a lot of people invested in your safety, Senator. We'll make sure you're protected. As they drove, the senator's expression hardened.
This won't deter me. If anything, it reinforces my commitment to my constituents. They need to know that I'm willing to fight for them no matter the cost. Colton, just be careful how you fight. Not everyone will resort to violence, but there are those who will try to undermine your resolve. You have to be strategic.
Foley met Colton's gaze.
I appreciate that, but you don't know what it's like to stand up against powerful interests. They don't play fair. Colton, maybe not, but that's why we're here, to make sure you have the support you need. We can help amplify your voice without resorting to drastic measures.
The SUV took a sharp turn and entered a secured parking garage. Colton felt the tension in the air shift slightly as they arrived at the designated safe house. The agents swiftly exited the vehicle, scanning the area before signaling that it was clear.
Let's move.
One of them instructed, and they all climbed out, ushering the senator to a discreet entrance leading into the building. Inside, the atmosphere was calm, yet tense. The safe house had been designed for high-profile individuals, equipped with security measures to ensure their protection. Colton felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He knew that keeping the senator safe was just the first step. They would have to address the roots of the threat as well. Once inside, the senator took a seat at a round table in the conference room. Colton settled across from him, and the agents took positions by the door, their expressions serious.
Senator Foley, we need to assess the situation and determine the next steps. We'll need your complete cooperation.
I'm ready. We need to understand who is behind this and why they targeted me.
Colton leaned forward. Colton, and we need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. We can't let fear dictate your actions or the actions of your team. The senator took a deep breath, his demeanor shifting from shaken to determined.
Let's get to work. I want to reach out to my staff and advisors. We need to formulate a plan to address this, not just for my safety, but for the people I serve.
Colton felt a sense of relief wash over him. Senator Foley was a fighter, and that was a quality they would need moving forward. Colton, I'll help you with that. We can coordinate with the FBI and local law enforcement to ensure your safety while we investigate this threat. As discussions began and strategies were formulated, Colton felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was committed to protecting the senator and helping him navigate the treacherous waters of political life, especially now that the stakes had been raised so dramatically. Together, they would confront the challenges ahead and ensure that the senator's voice continued to resonate in the halls of power, unyielded by fear. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows in the safe house as Mr. Calloway arrived, his expression a mixture of urgency and determination. Colton and Senator Foley were deep in conversation, discussing the implications of the assassination attempt when Calloway entered the room.
Gentlemen, I need to speak with you both. What I've learned is crucial.
Colton gestured for Calloway to take a seat. Colton, we were just discussing how to move forward after the attack. What do you have? Calloway nodded, glancing at the senator before continuing.
The man who attempted to assassinate you, he's not just a lone wolf. His actions stem from a broader frustration with the state of the country and how politicians, like you, Senator, are perceived to be handling these issues.
Foley leaned forward, concern etched on his face.
What do you mean? Is he part of a larger group?
No, it's more complex than that. He's a symbol of an entire demographic that feels ignored and disenfranchised. They believe that their struggles are overlooked while politicians focus on issues that don't address their day-to-day realities. His attempt was a desperate plea for attention, a way to make people see just how serious things have become.
Colton interjected. Colton, so his actions were driven by a sense of hopelessness? He thought that taking drastic measures would force change?
Exactly. He believed that if he could strike at a high-profile figure like you, Senator, it would send a message loud enough for everyone to hear. He wanted to show that frustration can boil over into violence when people feel they have no voice.
Senator Foley rubbed his temples, processing the information.
We need to address this. If people feel this way, it's a failure on our part to connect with them. We can't let fear dictate our actions or policy decisions.
Colton nodded in agreement. Colton, we need to find a way to bridge that gap. The senator should consider holding town halls or forums to engage directly with constituents. It's essential to show that you're listening.
That's a good idea, but we also need to ensure our security while doing so.
Calloway leaned back, contemplating the situation.
We'll need to create a communication strategy that emphasizes transparency and accessibility. We can't ignore the anger out there. We need to address it head-on, and that means listening to the concerns of those who feel neglected.
Later that evening, Colton and Calloway prepared for a debriefing with Carl, the president of the Hero League. They knew that Carl would be interested not only in the immediate security measures, but also in the broader implications of the assassination attempt. As they entered the conference room, Colton felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Carl was a no-nonsense leader, and he would want answers. The room was dimly lit, with a large table at the center where Carl sat, reviewing documents.
Colton, Calloway, I trust you have significant information regarding the attack on Senator Foley?
Colton nodded, taking a seat beside Calloway.
We've gathered some insights that could help us understand the motivations behind the attempt. It's more than just an isolated incident. It reflects a significant level of frustration among certain groups in the country. The assassin is a representation of those who feel unheard and marginalized. If we want to prevent similar incidents in the future, we need to address the root causes of that frustration.
So, you're saying this is a symptom of a larger problem, one that could escalate if not handled properly?
Precisely. We need to support Senator Foley in reaching out to constituents. We can't afford to let fear silence the conversation. It's about finding solutions, not just reacting to violence.
Carl leaned back, absorbing the information.
What do you propose as the next steps?
We need to enhance security measures for the senator while he engages with the public. At the same time, we should work on a communication strategy that emphasizes community involvement and listens to the frustrations of the people.
Agreed. We can't let this incident deter us from our mission to serve and protect. We must also demonstrate that we're here to listen and make change.
As the discussion continued, Colton felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were not just fighting against the immediate threat, but also working to create a safer and more inclusive environment for everyone. The challenges ahead would be significant, but together, they could begin to address the underlying issues that fueled anger and desperation in their communities. As the debriefing continued, the atmosphere in the room shifted from analytical to urgent. Carl leaned forward, his expression serious as he addressed Colton and Calloway.
Gentlemen, while we've made progress in understanding the motivations behind the attack on Senator Foley, we are facing a new and imminent threat. We've received credible intelligence that there may be an attempt on the senator's life during his upcoming political rally. The information suggests a potential mass shooting.
Colton felt a chill run down his spine. The stakes had just been raised dramatically.
What do we know about this threat?
Not much yet, but we can't take any chances. The Secret Service has already signed us up to assist with security at the rally. Given the recent assassination attempt and this new threat, it's imperative that we have a strong presence there.
We need to ensure that the senator is fully aware of the situation and understands the gravity of it. He may not want to cancel the rally, but we have to emphasize the risks.
You'll need to be in close proximity to the senator at all times. Your training and experience will be invaluable in this situation. We can't let anything happen to him.
Colton felt the weight of the responsibility pressing on him.
Understood. We'll need to coordinate closely with the Secret Service and set up security protocols to cover all angles. We should also consider a contingency plan to evacuate the senator if things go south.
Agreed. This rally is vital for the senator's campaign, but his safety is our top priority. We'll work together to ensure he can engage with his constituents without putting himself in harm's way.
The conversation shifted to logistics, with Calloway outlining potential security measures and Colton discussing how to monitor the crowd effectively. They formulated a plan that included surveillance, crowd control, and emergency response strategies. As the meeting wrapped up, Carl stood and looked at both men with a resolute expression.
This is it, gentlemen. Our final mission is to ensure the senator can safely attend this rally and address his supporters. We're not just fighting for him, we're fighting for the very ideals he represents. Let's make sure we do everything in our power to protect him and prevent any further violence.
Colton nodded, feeling a surge of determination.
We won't let him down. We'll make sure he can speak freely and safely.
As they left the conference room, Colton turned to Calloway.
We need to prepare the senator for what's to come. He deserves to know the risks, but also the strength of our support. Absolutely. We'll meet him first thing in the morning to discuss the rally and our security measures. He needs to feel empowered, not frightened.
With a shared sense of purpose, Colton and Calloway made their way out of the Hero League headquarters, ready to face the challenges ahead. They both knew the importance of the upcoming rally and the potential dangers they would face, but they were committed to ensuring that the senator's voice would not be silenced by fear or violence. They would stand together, prepared to confront any threat that came their way. The morning of the rally arrived with a heavy weight of tension in the air. Colton found himself in a private room at the venue, pacing nervously as he awaited Senator Foley's arrival. He had tried to convince the senator to cancel the event, but Foley's stubbornness was proving to be a formidable obstacle.
Colton, this rally is crucial for my campaign. If I cancel now, it sends the wrong message. My constituents need to see that I'm not afraid to stand up for them, even in the face of danger.
Colton sighed, frustration mounting.
But it's not just about perception. Your safety is paramount. We have credible intel about a possible attack. We have to think strategically here.
I appreciate your concern, but I've made my decision. We're going ahead with the rally.
Reluctantly, Colton acquiesced. He knew that trying to change Foley's mind was a lost cause. Instead, he focused on ensuring that the senator would have the best possible protection during the event. As they arrived at the rally venue, the tension in the air was palpable. As they parked, Colton's eyes caught sight of a familiar blue van emblazoned with the Hero League insignia. He frowned, surprised to see Mr. Rentz's vehicle in the parking lot. He had thought the Hero League hadn't assigned Rentz to this mission, given the severity of the threats.
Senator, wait here for a moment,
Colton said, stepping out of the SUV. He made his way towards the blue van, curiosity driving him forward. Mr. Rentz stepped out of the vehicle, a lopsided grin on his face.
Colton, fancy seeing you here.
Rentz, what are you doing here? I thought you weren't assigned to this mission.
Last minute change. The Hero League decided they needed an experienced getaway driver on hand, just in case things go south. They're worried that the black SUVs might not be fast enough if the threats turn out to be real.
Colton felt a mix of relief and apprehension.
So you're here as a backup? What's your plan?
Just hanging out in the parking lot, ready to roll at a moment's notice. I've got the van prepped and tuned up for a quick escape if we need it. Trust me, no one's gonna catch me in this baby.
Good to know. Just stay alert, Rentz. If anything feels off, we need to be ready to move fast.
Always. You know I've got your back.
With a final nod, Colton returned to the senator, who was already stepping out of the SUV, ready to address the crowd. The rally was beginning, and thousands of supporters were gathering, eager to hear from their senator. As they made their way to the stage, Colton felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. He positioned himself close to Senator Foley, scanning the crowd for any signs of trouble. The rally commenced, and Foley began his speech, passionately addressing the audience about hope, unity, and resilience. But Colton's focus was split, constantly assessing the surroundings for any potential threats. He couldn't shake the feeling that danger loomed just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to strike. All he could do was remain vigilant and be ready to act if the situation escalated. As Foley continued to speak, Colton caught sight of Rentz's blue van parked strategically nearby, a silent reminder of the contingency plan they had in place. He hoped they would not need it, but with the tension in the air, he knew they had to be prepared for anything.
As Senator Foley's speech reached a crescendo, an electric atmosphere filled the air.
The crowd cheered, completely unaware of the danger lurking just beyond their sight. Colton stood at the edge of the stage, his senses heightened, scanning the audience for any signs of trouble. Suddenly, the serenity of the moment was shattered. A deafening crack pierced the air, followed by another, and then a rapid succession of gunfire erupted like thunder. Panic ensued as people screamed and scrambled for cover. Colton's heart raced as he instinctively moved closer to the senator, shielding him with his body. "Colton, get down!" Colton shouted, pushing Foley to the ground behind the podium as chaos erupted around them. The crowd surged backward, some people falling over one another in their frantic attempts to escape the gunfire. Colton's mind raced as he assessed the situation. He could see flashes of movement near the edges of the crowd. Multiple shooters had opened fire from different positions. "Colton. Rentz!" Colton yelled, hoping his voice carried through the chaos. He turned to the senator. "Colton, stay here. I'm going to find cover and get a better look at what's happening." He darted toward the side of the stage, keeping low to avoid the line of fire. Adrenaline coursed through his veins as he moved strategically, scanning for any possible escape routes and the location of the shooters. He spotted several attendees ducking behind cars in the parking lot, while others were trying to help those who had fallen. Colton spotted Mr. Rentz at the blue van, his expression serious as he assessed the situation. Rentz had already opened the back doors, ready to assist any escapees. Colton made eye contact with him and nodded, signaling for him to stay put for now. As he crouched behind a barricade, Colton pulled out his radio. Colton. Control, this is Colton. We have multiple shooters at the rally, requesting immediate backup. I repeat, multiple shooters.
Copy that, Colton. Units are on their way. Stay safe and keep eyes on the senator.
Colton focused his attention back on the chaos. He could see at least 3 individuals firing into the crowd, their intentions clear. The crowd was in a state of panic, and he knew he had to act fast. He scanned the area, looking for anything he could use to help disarm the shooters. His eyes fell on a large metal barricade nearby. With a deep breath, he made a split-second decision. He sprinted toward the barricade, positioning it between himself and the shooters, and prepared to use it as cover. As he reached the barricade, he could see one of the shooters moving closer, a semi-automatic weapon in hand, aiming indiscriminately. Colton's training kicked in. He quickly assessed the angle and, using the barricade for support, readied himself to engage. Colton, Rents, get the senator to the van. I'll cover you. Rents nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He sprinted toward the podium where Foley was still crouched, and Colton's heart raced as he watched Rents reach for the senator. Rents, let's go, Rents urged, grabbing Foley by the arm and pulling him towards the blue van. Colton kept his eyes on the shooter, ready to provide covering fire. The shooter took aim again, but just as he was about to pull the trigger, Colton took his shot. With precision and focus, he fired, hitting the shooter in the shoulder. The man stumbled back, his weapon falling from his grip, and chaos erupted further as the crowd reacted to the sudden shift in the threat. Colton knew he couldn't let up. He aimed again, spotting another shooter who had taken cover behind a parked car. He fired once more, hitting the ground near the shooter to force him to duck. Colton, Rents, you're clear! Colton yelled, his voice hoarse. Rents and Foley reached the blue van, and Colton's heart leaped with relief as Rents jumped into the driver's seat, ready to take off. But the danger was far from over. He could see flashes of movement from the remaining shooters, and he had to ensure Rents and the senator made it to safety. Colton, go! Colton shouted, standing his ground as he prepared to make one final push. With all his training and instincts guiding him, he prepared to confront the remaining threats, determined to protect the senator and ensure their escape from this nightmare. Colton felt the adrenaline surging through him, his heart racing as the situation escalated. He had been trained to use his powers sparingly, but this was a moment that called for decisive action. With multiple shooters endangering innocent lives, he knew it was time to unleash the full extent of his abilities. He took a deep breath, grounding himself as he focused on the energy within him. The air crackled with electricity as he summoned the power of lightning, feeling the familiar surge race through his veins. With a fierce determination, he raised his hands, and a brilliant blue orb of energy materialized, pulsating with raw power. Colton, not on my watch, he shouted, and with a swift motion, he sent the first lightning ball hurtling toward the closest shooter. The ball arced through the air, striking the assailant directly. An explosion of light and sound erupted as the shooter was thrown backward, disarmed and incapacitated. Colton wasted no time. He spun on his heel, launching another lightning ball in the direction of the second shooter, who was trying to take aim at Rents and the senator. The energy fizzled through the air, illuminating the chaos around him, and struck the shooter squarely in the chest. The impact sent him sprawling, the weapon slipping from his grip. He could feel the collective gasp of the crowd as they witnessed the extraordinary display of power. Colton's focus sharpened. He couldn't let the surprise of his actions deter him. He unleashed a flurry of lightning balls in rapid succession, targeting the remaining shooters strategically positioned around the venue. With each ball he shot, the atmosphere became charged with electricity. The third shooter, who had been trying to flank him, was hit before he could react, collapsing to the ground in a daze. Colton glanced around, noting the terrified faces in the crowd and the chaos that ensued. "Stay down!" he yelled, directing everyone to take cover as he continued his assault. He spotted the last shooter, who was crouched behind a barricade, frantically trying to reload his weapon. Colton summoned all his energy and concentrated, forming a massive lightning ball that swirled with intense power. "Enough!" he roared, releasing the energy. The lightning ball shot forth like a comet, illuminating the sky, and struck the final shooter with a resounding crack. The force of the impact sent him flying, and he lay motionless on the ground. With the threat neutralized, Colton felt a wave of relief wash over him. He turned to see Rents and Senator Foley peering out from the safety of the blue van, their expressions a mix of shock and gratitude. The crowd, still in a state of panic, began to realize that the immediate danger had passed.
Colton! Rents shouted, his voice barely audible over the commotion. You did it! Everyone's safe!
Colton took a moment to catch his breath, the energy slowly dissipating from his body. He glanced around the rally site, ensuring that the shooters were down and that no one else was in harm's way. The police sirens echoed in the distance, a sign that help was on the way. "Let's get them out of here," he said, moving toward the van. He opened the door, helping Senator Foley inside. "We need to get you to a safe location." As Rents revved the engine, Colton turned back to address the crowd, his voice steady. "Everyone, please, stay calm. The danger is over. Help is on the way. You're safe now." With a final glance at the chaos around them, Colton slid into the van beside Rents, feeling a sense of relief mixed with the residual adrenaline. They pulled away from the rally site, heading towards safety, leaving behind the remnants of chaos, but carrying with them the knowledge that they had done everything possible to protect the innocent. Colton knew this was just one battle in a much larger war, but for now, they had triumphed. And as they drove away, he silently vowed to stay vigilant, ready to fight against whatever darkness threatened to emerge next.
As the van sped along the winding roads towards the safe house, a tense silence filled the air. Colton sat in the back seat, still feeling the after effects of his earlier display of power. Rents gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white with focus as he navigated through the streets. Suddenly, without warning, a loud whistling sound pierced the air, followed by a series of explosions nearby. Colton's heart dropped as he looked out the window, his eyes widening in disbelief. Mini grenades were raining down from above, detonating on the pavement and sending debris flying into the air.
"Rents, watch out!"
Colton shouted, instinctively bracing himself. Rents swerved the van to avoid the nearest explosion, narrowly missing a blast that erupted on the road beside them.
What the hell? Where are they coming from?
"They're dropping from the sky,"
Colton exclaimed, peering out of the window. He could see shadowy figures in black hovering above them, small drones equipped with grenade launchers.
"We have to take them out before they hit us."
Rents pressed the accelerator, pushing the van to its limits as he weaved through the streets. Colton leaned out of the window, focusing his energy again, ready to unleash another storm of lightning.
"Hold on!"
he shouted. He raised his hands, summoning the crackling energy that surged within him. With a flick of his wrist, he sent a bolt of lightning shooting upward, striking one of the drones mid-flight. The drone exploded in a shower of sparks, but more were still coming.
"Colton, keep going. We can't stop now."
Rents urged, glancing nervously at the rearview mirror as another grenade exploded behind them, sending a plume of smoke into the air. Colton continued to fire lightning balls at the drones, hitting several more as they swooped down, but there were just too many. He could see the ground littered with craters and debris from the explosions, and panic began to set in.
"Rents, can you take a sharp turn up ahead? We need to get off this road."
"Got it,"
Rents replied, veering sharply to the left. The van skidded, tires screeching as they barely made the turn. Colton felt the G-forces push him against the side of the van, but he maintained his focus, ready to defend them from the drones that followed. As they entered the narrower side street, Colton quickly assessed the situation. He could see a few remaining drones trailing them, their lights blinking ominously as they prepared to launch another barrage.
"Stay low, I'm going to try to hit them all at once,"
Colton shouted, channeling all his energy into a single massive lightning ball, larger and more intense than before. He aimed carefully, focusing on the group of drones hovering just above them.
"Now!"
he yelled, launching the energy ball into the air. It soared upward, illuminating the darkened sky with a blinding light before exploding in a spectacular display of electricity. The shockwave rippled through the air, and Colton watched as several drones were caught in the blast, spiraling out of control and crashing to the ground. Rents glanced back, seeing the remaining drones falter.
"That's it, Colton. Keep going."
With the immediate threat diminished, they pressed on toward the safe house, navigating through the maze of streets. Colton took a moment to catch his breath, still buzzing with energy, but he knew they weren't out of the woods yet.
"Rents, we need to find a way to disable the drones completely. If they regroup, they'll be back."
"I'll check the map and see if there's a way to draw them away from us."
Rents replied, his voice steady despite the tension. He maneuvered the van into an alley, hoping to blend into the shadows. Colton nodded, scanning the skies for any sign of the drones. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Protecting the senator and Rents was his priority, and he wasn't going to let them down.
Let's find that safe house.
Colton said resolutely.
And then we'll deal with these drones once and for all.
As the van moved deeper into the alley, the sound of distant explosions faded. But Colton knew it was only a matter of time before they faced their next challenge. He was ready, determined to confront whatever came next with the full force of his powers. As the van rumbled down the alley, Rents glanced at Colton, concern etched on his face.
What's our next move? Those drones are relentless.
Before Colton could respond, his communicator buzzed.
It was Mr. Calloway, a senior member of the Hero League, reaching out with urgency in his voice.
Colton, are you there?
Calloway's voice crackled through the speaker.
We've got a serious situation. I just spoke with President Carl. He's dispatching backup to assist you.
Colton's heart raced.
What kind of backup?
Another superhero. His name is the Fly. He has the ability to fly and can engage the drones directly in the air. He's on his way to your location now. You need to hold the line until he arrives.
Understood.
Colton said, feeling a surge of hope.
We're in an alley, but the drones are still out there. We can't let them regroup.
Stay put and keep an eye out. The Fly will be there shortly. Just hang tight.
With the communication cut, Colton shared the news with Rents.
Help is on the way. The Fly is coming to assist us.
Good. Let's hope he gets here soon. We need all the firepower we can get.
As they waited, Colton's heightened senses picked up the distant whirring of the drones overhead. They were still searching, their lights flickering ominously in the darkening sky. He could feel the tension building. Every second felt like an eternity.
There he is.
Suddenly, the sound of rapid wing beats filled the air. Colton peered out of the van's window, just in time to see a figure streaking through the sky, a vibrant red and yellow costume glinting in the fading light.
There he is.
Colton shouted, excitement coursing through him. The Fly swooped down, landing gracefully on the pavement beside the van. He had an athletic build and a confident demeanor, his eyes scanning the area.
Colton, Rents, I heard you needed a hand.
Absolutely. We've got drones scattered all over this area and they're trying to take us out.
The Fly nodded, his wings retracting slightly as he focused on the task ahead.
I'll take to the skies and engage them directly. You two stay low and get to safety.
Be careful.
Don't worry, I've got this.
With that, he launched himself back into the air, soaring upward with incredible speed. Colton watched as the Fly ascended, his form becoming a blur against the backdrop of the twilight sky. The superhero quickly spotted the drones, which had begun to regroup, hovering menacingly above them.
Time to show you what I can do.
The Fly shouted, diving toward the closest drone. He twisted in midair, using his agility to dodge the barrage of mini grenades that were fired in his direction. With a powerful kick, he struck the drone, sending it spiraling into the ground below. Colton and Rents cheered as they witnessed the aerial battle unfolding above them. The Fly zipped between drones, using acrobatics and superior speed to dodge their attacks. He unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks, disabling them one by one.
Colton, we can't just sit here. We need to help him.
Right. Let's see if we can provide some cover fire. I'll take out any drones that get too close to him.
They both climbed back into the van, and Colton positioned himself at the open window, channeling his energy as he prepared to fire. He watched as the Fly engaged more drones, his movements a blur of speed and precision. "Okay, ja, Mersti."
Here we go.
Colton shouted, releasing a bolt of lightning toward a drone that was preparing to launch a grenade at the Fly. The bolt struck true, causing the drone to explode mid-air, showering debris across the street. The Fly glanced down, giving Colton a thumbs up before he continued his assault, now fully aware of the support from below. With newfound confidence, Colton launched more lightning balls, taking out drones and clearing the skies for the Fly to maneuver freely.
Keep it up, we're almost there.
As the battle raged on, Colton felt the tide turning. With the Fly's aerial prowess and his own lightning powers, they were systematically dismantling the threat. The remaining drones began to scatter. As the aerial battle continued, Rents's eyes darted around the van, searching for something, anything, that could give them an edge. His gaze landed on the glove compartment, and an idea sparked in his mind.
Colton, cover me.
He shouted, diving into the compartment. He pulled out a bottle labeled Explosive Mountain Dew, a concoction he had perfected. The drink was notorious for its explosive properties, and Rents had kept a few bottles handy for emergencies. Colton nodded, focusing on the remaining drones that were still hovering in the air, trying to regroup and retaliate. He fired off another bolt of lightning, striking one of the drones, but there were still a few left. Rents quickly unscrewed the cap of the bottle, the fizzing sound echoing in the van.
This is going to be a wild ride!
He shouted, and without hesitation, he hurled the opened bottle into the air toward the remaining drones. The bottle soared upward, and as it reached the drone formation, the pressure inside built up until, boom! The bottle detonated in a spectacular explosion, sending shards of plastic and the fizzy contents flying everywhere. The shockwave took out the last of the drones, obliterating them in a brilliant flash of light.
Yeah, we did it.
Rents cheered, pumping his fist in the air. But his celebration was short-lived as he turned to look for the fly, who was now plummeting from the sky.
Oh no, the fly!
Rents shouted, watching helplessly as the superhero spiraled downward, caught off guard by the blast. Colton's heart raced as he realized the situation.
We need to catch him. I'll try to slow his fall.
As the fly descended, Colton released a surge of energy upwards, creating a cushion of electricity that enveloped the fly just before he hit the ground. The shock of the impact was still significant, and the fly landed hard, but the energy cushion absorbed enough of the force to prevent serious injury.
What just happened?
The fly groaned as he sat up, shaking his head.
What just happened?
We took out the drones, but I think my explosive Mountain Dew might have sent you flying a bit too.
The fly chuckled weakly as he got to his feet, brushing off his costume.
I've had worse landings. Good to see you two are still in one piece.
Colton joined them, relief flooding through him.
We couldn't have done it without you up there. You were amazing.
Yeah, but next time, let's try to coordinate our attacks a little better, huh?
The three heroes shared a laugh, the tension of the moment dissipating as they took stock of the destruction around them. The remnants of the drones lay scattered across the street, a testament to their teamwork and perseverance.
All right, let's get back to the safe house. We still need to regroup and figure out our next move.
Feeling a sense of urgency return.
Agreed, but first, what's in that bottle?
His eyes scanning the area for any lingering threats.
Just my explosive version of Mountain Dew. It's a party in a bottle.
With a shared sense of camaraderie, the trio hopped back into the van, ready to make their way to the safe house. As they drove away from the chaos, they knew they had faced a formidable challenge and emerged victorious. But the fight was far from over. Together, they would have to prepare for whatever came next in this unpredictable battle for survival.
A few days later, the atmosphere in the city was electric with anticipation. The sun shone brightly as crowds gathered outside the Grand Hall, where Senator Foley was set to hold a press conference honoring the heroes who had recently saved his life. The word had spread quickly about Colton, Mr. Calloway, Mr. Rents, and the Fly, and the city was eager to celebrate their bravery. Inside the hall, a stage was set up with a large banner that read, "Heroic Acts of Valor." The audience was filled with reporters, local citizens, and dignitaries, all buzzing with excitement. Senator Foley, a charismatic man with a flair for the dramatic, stood at the podium, his expression a mix of gratitude and pride. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice resonating through the hall, "today we gather not just to celebrate bravery, but to honor the extraordinary individuals who put their lives on the line to protect not only me, but the very spirit of our great city." The crowd erupted into applause as Colton, Rents, the Fly, and Mr. Calloway stepped onto the stage, their faces illuminated by the warmth of the spotlight. Each of them wore proud expressions, knowing they had made a significant impact. "Colton, Rents, the Fly, and Mr. Calloway," Senator Foley continued, "your quick thinking and courageous actions during the drone attack saved countless lives. You faced danger head-on and emerged victorious against overwhelming odds. For that, we are eternally grateful."
Colton felt a swell of pride as the senator spoke. He glanced at his friends, who were equally moved by the recognition.
Rents nudged him with a grin, whispering, I can't believe this is happening.
The senator reached for a small box behind the podium. Senator Foley. As a token of our appreciation, it is my honor to present you with these awards of valor. He opened the box to reveal 4 gleaming medals, each adorned with the symbol of the city's emblem, a phoenix rising from the ashes. One by one, he called them up to receive their awards. Senator Foley Colton, for your incredible ability to harness lightning and protect your fellow citizens. Colton stepped forward, accepting the medal with a humble nod and a smile. Senator Foley, Mr. Rents, for your ingenious use of your explosive concoctions in the field. You truly know how to make an impact. Rents took his medal with a dramatic flourish, earning cheers from the crowd. Senator Foley, Mr. Calloway, for your unwavering leadership and guidance in times of crisis. You are a beacon of hope for us all. Calloway accepted his medal graciously, acknowledging the crowd with a wave. Senator Foley. And finally, the Fly. For your remarkable aerial skills and bravery in the face of danger, you soared above and beyond what anyone could have expected. The Fly smiled widely as he received his medal, raising it high for the crowd to see. As the applause echoed throughout the hall, Senator Foley continued. Senator Foley, these heroes remind us that courage and selflessness can triumph over adversity. They inspire us all to be better citizens and to stand together in the face of challenges. After the awards ceremony concluded, the heroes took a moment to stand together on stage, soaking in the moment. Reporters rushed forward, eager to capture photos and ask questions.
Colton, how does it feel to be recognized for your bravery?
It feels incredible, but this award belongs to all of us. We couldn't have done it without each other.
And without the support of the citizens, we're just grateful to be able to serve.
As the press conference wrapped up, the heroes stepped off the stage, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. They knew that the city was watching and that their actions had sparked hope in the hearts of many.
Let's celebrate. I think we've earned ourselves a little victory party.
Count me in.
Colton smiled, feeling grateful for the recognition and for the friendships that had deepened through their shared experiences. Together, they exited the hall, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their mission to protect the city and its people.